my fingers warmed up because I can.
Is that play a bowl cup?
Okay.
Get your fingers going, moving, you know.
I just feel like I need.
But
you
Earl
to
Johnsmar, he
realize,
was a
you know.
teacher out of Lansing. He
So-
and his wife never had any children,
So
but they
that's what I'm gonna do.
adopted every kid in high school. She taught all the math and girls phys ed, and he taught all the bookkeeping and what else did he teach?
Nowadays they issue tablets.
Office practice
Now
and
they issue
shorthand.
tablets,
Yeah.
too. Nobody's taught shorthand anymore, I don't think.
And,
Okay.
and all the boys
course.
sports. So that family was, and you know, to the day they died, both of them never missed a Lansing ball game, even after they retired. Never. In town, out of town.
They were there. They were Lions.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I'm a Lansing Lion myself.
Sending these resignations
Sorry.
Friday.
I keep my children in Pioneer, so.
Whoa.
I gotta get out
Well, we were in line.
Our guy not winning the Player of the Year for Big 12.
Which one? He did. Or he's not player of the year, but newcomer of the year. That Wade or somebody Sneed or somebody from K-State.
Culver got it for the Texas Tech.
Oh, did he?
The Player of the Year.
Oh.
I'm just tired of it.
We can start the meeting. Are we ready in the back room?
I do believe she
Okay.
is.
She's speaking.
Yes. I call this meeting to order. We'll take roll by those present. Has everyone had the second agenda item is the minutes from the September meeting? Has everyone had an opportunity to read the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is I open the public hearing for the Community Development Block Grant. First part will be unmet public needs to be addressed with the CDBG funds. Is there anyone in the audience that is not a social service agency that would like to address the group? Okay, yes. Yeah, you'll need to come up to the microphone so they can hear you.
And we'll need you to state your name.
Wendy Scheit with Leavenworth Main Street Program. So, I don't know, I probably haven't come before. I've been told that oftentimes these grants aren't available for downtown properties or building owners. So I guess I came to get some background information.
Well, not specifically knowing what you're asking for and what we can do. We are distributing HUD money,
Yep.
and Mary will be able to help you
Correct?
navigate that.
Okay.
Okay.
Right now, CDBG funds are distributed to home repair, home ownership, demolition of dangerous structures. And we also do public service agencies.
So with those, it's not business owner, it's not
It is not
building
business
owners. Can't be,
owners.
okay.
Not at this time.
And dangerous structures, would that be anything within the community? Could be downtown?
It could be if the code enforcement officers designate it.
Okay.
The way that process works is the code enforcement officers designate the dangerous structures within the city. Those owners have an opportunity to improve those projects or residences or garages or buildings. If they do not do so, then we use some of the CDBG money to eliminate those from the community so that they aren't a problem.
So it sounds like the majority of things other than dangerous structures wouldn't apply to downtown.
At this point, no.
Commercial.
No, at this point, not commercial.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That takes us into our second section, the public service agency funding. I don't know an equal way to do this.
How about if we
Okay.
Just go down the list from.
Okay, the list would be a good idea. First come, first serve. And I don't think the mission got on there.
There's April.
You sorry? Anybody else that didn't sign?
Iris.
I'd like to conduct this hearing outside. It's too nice to be inside.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
All right, so the first agency we'd like to hear from is St. Vincent Clinic. Jen?
Okay, so I had not been here before, so I was hoping somebody
Oh.
would go in front of me.
It's really easy. You come up to the microphone, introduce
Come up to the
yourself.
magic microphone, you introduce yourself, and then tell us a little bit about your agency and the funding that you're looking for.
Okay. So good afternoon, I'm Jen Weavers. I'm the Director of Development for Caritas Clinics, which is comprised of St. Vincent Clinic here in Leavenworth and then Duchesne Clinic in KCK. And so we care for folks who have no health insurance and who live below 175% of the federal poverty level. Majority of the folks we see here at St. Vincent actually live below 50% of the federal poverty level. So for one person, that's a little over $6,000. The needs of the folks that we do see, usually they have put off care for a long time because they haven't had health insurance. So by the time they get to us, they're very sick. And so our primary care providers work with them to get them to be healthier. And then we also help to manage if there's any referrals in the community. So for example, if someone needs eyeglasses and has diabetes and needs to have a diabetic screening, the Lions provide funding for us to be able to get them those exams and those eyeglasses. We have great relationships with a couple of the dental practices who will do emergency dental work for patients at a very reduced cost, if not free. And then both St. John Hospital and St. Luke's Cushing provide labs for our patients, and they alternate every other month on providing labs. And then if we have a patient who needs to receive an MRI, an X-ray, something sort of specialized, then we can ask them for those services as well. So when it comes to St. Vincent Clinic, we're one organization, but we are really held and supported by so many throughout the whole community. We serve about 400 folks a year, all adults. Those are the main things. And then the other thing I would just say is that what we've been receiving CDBG funding for has been to fund the utilities for the clinic. So this year, the request that we submitted was for $11,480, which is the utilities for water, electric, and gas. Okay.
Jen, how many people do you serve? This
Just under 400.
400. Is that up or down from last year?
Right now, well, we're down by 2 between 2017 and 2018, which we consider a success because we were down our full-time provider for a few months. We've hired a new full-time provider who also has expertise working with folks who are homeless. One of the things I meant to mention is that 20% of the patients we care for at St. Vincent Clinic are homeless.
Okay. Good to
Is
know.
that all?
Are
Any
there
questions?
Questions from the board?
What about medications? Are they able to get medications through you or at a reduced rate, or if they need?
Yes. So since we manage a lot of chronic diseases, the primary way we access medications for patients are through prescription assistance programs. And so those are the pharmaceutical companies who provide indigent care programs. And so that's how we do the majority of folks who need ongoing. And then for other things, the state of Kansas had the Unused Medication Act in 2008. And so certain skilled nursing facilities, mail order pharmacies, have gone through a process to be approved, and they actually send unused medication to a clinic in southeast Kansas that serves as a dispensary for the entire state. So twice a month, we can order based on that inventory and receive those medications free of charge. So those are the two primary ways. About $900,000 in value of medications was dispensed to patients last year.
Is there any behavioral, mental health being?
Not at this time. It's a desperate need, but not at this time.
So where do you refer your behavioral health?
Guidance Center,
I assumed, I just wanted
yeah.
to.
Okay.
I'm curious, all adults, why no children?
Because we just don't have the capacity at this point to be able to see children from a pediatric standpoint. Also, so many children are on Medicaid, and we aren't yet accepting Medicaid or Medicare. But if we were to start to see children, we'd have to look at having a pediatrician or someone with specialty in pediatrics. You would have to have a complete different set of, everything that you would need to be, we would love to be able to provide care for the whole family, but at this point, it's not in the immediate future.
There's no more questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Next agency would be the youth support programs. Joe?
Hello, I am Joe Bias, Director of the Youth Support Programs. We are a no-cost after-school and summer camp programs for the at-risk and low-income youth of Leavenworth, Kansas. Right now, we operate Tuesdays to Thursdays whenever school is in session for a full day from 3 to 6 p.m. Our main focuses are academics and health and nutrition, but we offer a wide variety of prevention programs, both for the youth and their families. The funding that we receive from CDBG is rent that is paid towards the Youth Achievement Center. I feel like I should be saying a lot more. I have a whole bunch of notes here, but questions?
Any questions from the board?
Do you have volunteers, or are all of your people paid?
Right now, we operate off of volunteer help. And with the volunteers that I currently have, we can take in about 30 kids per day for our programs. Of course, the more volunteers we end up with, the more youth we can service, but we have to maintain a certain ratio of adults to youth.
What's the screening process for those volunteers?
KBI background checks and local PD background checks, plus any registered offender database, we check those as well. We check for any history of sexual offenses, violent offenses, or against animals, seniors, children, obviously.
Does the Kids Connection come under your umbrella?
No, ma'am. No, we are not affiliated with them.
Do you have an age requirement?
Right now, we focus at 10 to 17 years of age. And I'm hoping soon, we're working with some foster groups about working with youth that are aging out of foster care, helping them get prepared for adult life. Technically, they are adults, but they're still young enough that there's still a lot they need to learn.
Under 30.
Joe, how many people do you have on as volunteers?
I have 3 that I find I can really rely on.
Okay.
Any other questions? I just had a couple concerns here on your application. We try not to make this too difficult, but the audit has always been a problem with the youth support agency. Is that something you see you'll be able to do in the future?
From my understanding, since we don't receive X amount of federal funding, we're not required to do an audit, and our budget is so small as is, the cost of an audit. I don't know if I could get someone that would be able to volunteer their time to do an audit.
Well, we're trying to, I see it as we're trying to safeguard federal money.
Correct, right.
And trying not to make it too difficult.
Right. That is something I could bring up to the treasurer and my board of directors. And see what we can make happen in that regard.
And I also see on here, there's not a current affirmative action letter from the city of Leavenworth.
I was waiting to hear back from
Okay,
Mary
that
on
shouldn't be too
that.
difficult.
No,
Okay.
I wasn't sure if I needed to provide the updated one or not.
That comes out of the city manager's office. You have to get the copy from the city
Okay.
manager. It says that in the application.
Okay. Well, that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Next agency would be the Alliance Against Family Violence. Jennifer Marsh.
Hello. As Mary mentioned, my name is Jennifer Marsh, and I'm with the Alliance Against Family Violence. Can you all hear me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Thank you for having me here today. I know that many of you I've already spoken with, probably multiple times, but I'm going to run through the status of the organization and then hopefully answer your questions. So after a closure of a little over a year, I'm excited to announce the Alliance Against Family Violence will resume confidential emergency shelter and hotline services no later than April 1st of 2019, with an intended soft opening on March 27th. We'll open this first week by reaching out to services in the community who are currently housing residents that we know are in need of confidential shelter and allow them to come in and stay with us for a week, and then we will push out our hotline and access information with a new website on April 2nd. The Alliance is committed to providing consistent, high-quality, trauma-informed care to every resident of Leavenworth County impacted by sexual and/or domestic violence. Since the organization's closure in November of 2017, a new executive board and the Kansas Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence have worked tirelessly to raise funds and ensure the Alliance could eventually return to full operations. I began with the Alliance in December, and since that time, we have created and adopted new policies and procedures as they apply to our employee handbook, fiscal management procedures, and our accounting and bookkeeping practices. In addition, we have secured 2019 funding from multiple state and federal grant programs. We have hired a shelter manager, a sexual assault advocacy coordinator, a full-time daytime shelter advocate, and approximately 12 part-time shelter advocates. By the end of the week, I also hope to have extended offers to both a police response advocacy program coordinator as well as a full-time case manager. All staff are screened and trained in accordance with victim services best practices, as well as coalition and state requirements. I have begun connecting with area civic and governmental service providers, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to reach those that require our services the most, including low-income residents and their children. In the past, nearly 90% of the Alliance's clients have fell below the federal poverty guidelines. We have requested $10,000 in CDBG funds that would help to pay for utility services for the shelter and administrative building located in the city of Leavenworth. Our most recent utility payments were a little over $1,000, and that was without anybody living in the facilities, just me. So we anticipate that monthly cost to increase significantly. As we see in the statistics and from the news, from friends, colleagues, neighbors, the issue of sexual and domestic violence is increasingly prevalent. Support from the city will allow us to expand our reach and provide supportive services to a community that is currently going without. Thank you for your time and consideration and for the support that you've provided to the Alliance over the past year.
Do you just cover Leavenworth County?
We do, yes.
Any other questions from the board?
If not, I have a couple.
Okay.
Okay. So currently, what services is the Alliance providing?
Currently, none. But as of March 27th, we'll be providing 24/7 hotline, emergency shelter, case management, support groups, and then we'll be rolling out the police response and sexual assault advocacy programs probably by mid-May.
Okay, got it. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anybody else?
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. And next would be the Guidance Center, Rachel Sweet. Oh, not Rachel.
Not Rachel. Rachel wrote this request for us, but I'm Keith Rickard. I'm the Executive Director of the Guidance Center. The Guidance Center is a community mental health center serving Leavenworth County, obviously, as well as Atchison and Jefferson County. Comprehensive means that we provide everything from psychiatry to case management, and we presently have a staff of about 135 members. We see about 5,000 clients a year, 3,000 of which are Leavenworth County residents. Of those, about 30% or a little more than 30% are uninsured clients and therefore receiving services on a slide fee schedule that slides everywhere from $0 to our current rates of reimbursement to insurance companies. Those fees are determined based on income and number of dependents supported on those dollars. Over the past year or so, the community met oftentimes with the police, sheriff department, Leavenworth County Commission, and others, and there currently is a mental health task force at work appointed by the Leavenworth County Commission to study gaps in mental health services in our communities. And so current City Commissioner Myron Griswold is a part of that and is helping us to put together both an analysis as well as an action plan for implementation. We're finding major gaps in service in our community around the homeless, mentally ill, around the closure of the state hospital, the reduction in beds at the state hospital, causing patients to back up in our emergency rooms as well as in our jails. Funding for the community mental health center system, however, over the last 10, 15 years has been stagnant or shrinking, and as a result, we constantly find ourselves looking for new sources of revenue to pay for the care that we deliver. Last year, we asked the council for $5,000 for utility assistance, which is basically 1 month of utilities at the Leavenworth facility at 500 Limit Street. And I guess my appeal is that every little bit helps. At this point, we still operated with a deficit in 2018. In our efforts to meet the demands of all the clients that come to us, we still had a budget deficit in 2018 that simply can't continue moving into the future. So with that, again, we reiterate our request this year for the rent assistance for our Leavenworth facility for 1 month. And that's really an average of our monthly expenses for that facility. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Any questions from the board? Any comments, Mary?
I have just one question. You said that you covered Leavenworth County. Of that, how much is within the city?
Who's within how many clients within the city?
Yeah,
I'm
the
sorry.
city directly?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that
Okay.
exactly today, but I could get that information for you with a data search.
I guess the reason I'm asking that is this is a city grant.
Right?
Yeah, so we're kind of focusing on that portion. But we can get it some other time.
Okay,
That's fine.
we'll work on getting that for you right away.
Okay.
Just we can do a computer search, get that information. I'm going to guess that of the 3,000, it's probably close to 2,000 of them are Leavenworth City residents.
That would be my guess as well, probably.
I think anytime you have to travel more than 15 or 20 miles, sometimes you go to alternative communities for service, and so sometimes they end up in Wyandotte County or Johnson County for services. But and the population center obviously is greater in the city than it is the other cities in Leavenworth County. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next agency. Okay, so Tanya Thomas?
Yeah, I'm with CASA, or
Oh.
the Leavenworth Child Advocacy Center.
Okay, I didn't recognize the name. Well, I couldn't recognize the
I'm
initials.
sorry.
That's all right. You just state your name and the agencies you're covering.
Okay. So my name is Tanya Thomas, and I'm here with the First Judicial CASA Association. I am the new program director for the Leavenworth Child Advocacy Center. So that's where the confusion came in. So I apologize for that.
No, that was my bad.
So we are located directly across the street at the intersection of 5th and Shawnee. And CASA is a local agency with 3 separate programs under our umbrella. The first program is the CASA program, which is the court-appointed special advocate program. Volunteers are recruited and trained by staff, certified as a CASA volunteer by the Kansas Office of Judicial Administration. In 2018, 30 CASA advocates provided advocacy to 59 children in the court system. They spent over 3,000 hours working with or for children and drove over 21,000 miles providing advocacy work. Of the 59 children served by CASA in 2018, the incidence of reoccurrence of abuse for these children was less than 1%. Through the rigorous background checks, extensive training, and continuous encouragement and support, our program is able to sustain and maintain absolutely wonderful volunteer advocates. In 2018, our program experienced 90% assignment stability, which means that of the 59 children served by CASA, 53 of the children did not experience a change in their CASA advocate. The turnover rates for social workers is nearly 40%, and the turnover rate for the local program of CASA volunteers is only 6%. Our second program that we provide is the Child Exchange and Visitation Center. In 2018, we provided services to 108 children, representing 72 families. We supervised 812 visits between non-custodial parents and children, provided 460 exchanges. We have 1 program coordinator who supervises program, meets all clients to perform intakes, schedules services, and reports to the court. We operate 4 days every week. We have 5 visitation rooms and can accommodate up to 5 visits per hour during visitation hours. Families are referred to the Child Exchange and Visitation Center for many reasons. Reasons of domestic violence, child abuse, substance abuse, homelessness, threatening behavior. Our main purpose is to provide the children a safe and neutral environment to visit with their non-custodial parent. Our staff and volunteer document all activity and reports directly to the judge, and security personnel are on site for all services to ensure safety for all. Our final program that we have is a Child Advocacy Center. In 2017, the Leavenworth Child Advocacy Center came under the umbrella of the First Judicial CASA Association. At the CAC, the child tells their story to 1 trained interviewer who knows the right questions to ask in a way that does not re-traumatize the child. Then a team that includes medical professionals, law enforcement, mental health, prosecution, child protective services, victim advocacy, and other professionals make decisions together about how to help the child based on that interview. Our family advocate provides victim advocacy, case management, and other services to the child and to the parent, the non-offending parent. We currently outsource therapy, medical exams, and courtroom preparation, and all of this is part of a multiple disciplinary team response and is a core part of the work of the CAC. In 2018, the Leavenworth Child Advocacy Center provided 128 forensic interviews, 12 multiple disciplinary team meetings, hired 2 new staff personnel who have gone through national trainings, and we have offered 42 new non-offending caregivers advocacy. So we are requesting $15,500 to support all 3 program services offered by the First Judicial CASA Association. These funds represent 3.7% of our overall budget and will be used to offset our rent costs for the facilities we use for the programs described today.
Excuse me, sorry. Any questions from the board?
What are the security, you said security on site?
So we have security doors that we have locked, and so when people come to our doors, they just have to ring a doorbell, and then we just check them in through that.
And you have the individuals that are there for security purposes?
They're just hired. we have one security officer for the Child Visitation and Exchange Center. And so while those visits are going on, he just checks their IDs to make sure that he's being buzzed in. And the rest of the time, it's just us
Oh, I
staff
understand.
personnel.
So that individual's background is law
It
enforcement?
goes through a he goes through a background check.
Yeah.
I'm not, sorry, I don't know if he
No,
has a
just-
law enforcement background or not.
Just
I don't
curious as
have
to.
that information.
That's fine.
Any other questions from the board? Mary?
I don't have any. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
There's another person, Jerry, listed with the Guidance Center. He's with us. He's one of us. Hi, Jerry. It's nice to have you be one of them. Lisa Schmidt with the community, Women's Community Y.
Good afternoon. My name's Lisa Schmidt, and I'm the Director of the Women's Community Y. First, on behalf of the Board of Directors and the staff of the Women's Community Y, we'd like to thank you for the CDBG grant that we received in the 2018-2019 cycle. The Y currently serves 37 families with 45 children, 2.5 to 11 years of age. During the school year, we provide full and part-time childcare for a 3- and 4-year-old preschool program, a pre-K program, and school-age programs. That includes snow days, vacation days, days out of school. We got kids everywhere today. It's spring break. During the school year, during the summer, we provide a summer camp program. We're licensed for up to 59 children in the building, and our program grows somewhere between 55 and 60 kids during the summer. The 2019 budget of $293,000. Of this budget, 70% of the budget is met by fees from our families. The balance is made up by fundraising, membership in the Y, participation in this CACFP, which is the school lunch program, DCF funds for qualifying families and foster children, and grants from public and private entities along with United Way. 60% of our families meet the household income for HUD's low or moderate range. Currently, 10% of the children are in foster care. That number has been as high as 20 to 23%. It's currently down because some of our kids have been adopted by family members or have been moved out of the program. We operate on a sliding scale to serve families that have a reduced income. These families, many have no one or nowhere else to provide children, care for their children, so parents can work or continue their education. In 2019, Kansas Department of Health and Environment, who regulates child care facilities in the state of Kansas, has made a big change. All staff members will now be fingerprinted and FBI background checked. We've been background checked for years, but now we're moving to fingerprinting. It raises the bar for the safety for the children in the care throughout the state. It also makes it more difficult for us to have volunteers because we're open during the week, during normal business hours. I'm sure many of you are aware that we operate in an old Victorian up on Broadway. The CDBG grants will help offset bills like our February bill of almost $500 for gas just to stay warm. And even with vigilant thermostat control, our gas bill in the winter and our electric bill in the summer can be daunting. We greatly appreciate your kind consideration in this grant process and any questions. Thank you.
Most of your staff are paid staff?
Yes.
Correct. And are these licensed people in childcare?
Yes. My preschool teachers have associate's degrees. One of my teacher's aides has a bachelor's degree. I don't have anyone on my staff making the low-end minimum for HUD. I don't have anyone making $24,000. So I have a person with a bachelor's degree that makes $10 an hour.
Any other questions from the board? Mary, any questions?
I don't have any. Sister Paula Rose,
No,
did
I'm
you
good.
have another one?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Lisa, thank you very much. Next is Iris Arnold from the Leavenworth Mission.
Iris Arnold, Leavenworth Mission, food pantry here in Leavenworth. With utility assistance from CDBG, Leavenworth Food Pantry has been open consistently every week, all year, and has been able to keep the food pantry stocked. So we're pretty proud of that because we've struggled in the past. And so we say thank you for your support. On an average, the Leavenworth Mission Food Pantry assists 350 to 425 families every month. Last year, the mission helped to organize and facilitate meetings with several of the local food pantries, and as a result, several of the food pantries have increased their communication and networking with each other and started to share their surplus of foods and resources. Also last year, we had over 112 agency referrals to help clients with clothing and household items. In July 2018, we held our annual Back to School event with Churches United for Our Youth, and we distributed over 400 book bags with school supplies along with toys and fresh produce. In January of this year, the Leavenworth Mission partnered with Second Harvest Food Bank to provide foods for our community with a fresh mobile food pantry food truck. So far for January and February, the food truck has provided foods for 212 families, 205 children, and 450 adults in that short amount of time. We plan to have these foods available on a monthly basis. Throughout the remainder of 2019, it's our goal to seek additional resources so that we can provide household products for an increasing number of client requests. Any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Your food truck, does it just go through certain areas of the community?
There is a mobile truck that is stationed at the VA, and it's there once a month as well. And we know there's a great need on the north end of town,
Yes.
and so that's where we'll be stationed permanently.
I want to commend you for organizing the various food pantries to get together and collaborate with each other.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that leaves us with Catholic Charities, but I see no other faces that haven't been up.
That might be correct. I'm going to turn around now. Anybody else here to speak? Yeah, it seems they are missing in
Okay.
action.
Well, at this time, and then I close the public hearing.
Well, there are a couple of other matters.
Oh,
If-
okay.
If you could leave it open for just a minute.
Okay, I will
Thanks.
leave it open. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. I have had 2 resignations from our board. I just wanted to make everybody aware of. The first one was Margaret McCain. She moved. And the second one was Steve Kemp. He just contacted me this morning, and for personal reasons and health reasons, he needs to resign. So I'm in the process of trying to get those filled with the mayor.
If we know any good volunteers, she needs names.
Yeah, I could take some names. General,
That would be anybody in the audience too. If you know
Right.
of any volunteers that would like to spend about, we meet, 5-6 times a year?
yep.
And try to keep it. This is the longest meeting. The rest of them are much shorter.
Yes. We could use volunteer suggestions. It's up to the mayor to appoint, so I forward those suggestions to him at this point, and he'll make those. But in the interim, since Steve was chair, Mr. Seifert, that makes you move up from vice chair to chair. And we need to appoint a chair, a vice chair. So I need a volunteer.
So you're looking at me.
Just one volunteer.
Is this thing on? I'll volunteer. That's fine.
Okay, all
And I
right,
second his nomination.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now,
Glad you volunteered. Thank you, Charles.
We're very glad.
I'm ready to get a t-shirt out of this.
Yeah, you should.
I don't know that we have any t-shirts, but we might. That's the only thing I had in other matters and correspondence for the public meeting.
Okay, well, just a point of order. I need to close the public hearing.
Correct.
Yes. So we've officially closed the public hearing.
You have to vote on it.
Okay.
Someone needs to move.
I move to close the public hearing.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing for the unmet public need, or public need in the public service agencies. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay.
And
At this point, if any of the agencies would like to remove
unless you want the hard part, how do we slice our pie?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for coming. Oh, sure. All right,
Forgot to turn
so
one of my
we move to the second part, which is, we'll start with a discussion on the proposed 2019-2020 annual action plan funding. Last year, we split up our money, as I said, between home repair, home ownership, demolition of dangerous structures, public service agencies. What I'd like to know is, do those all still sound like important endeavors for our funds? And if you have other requests, now is a good time to bring them forward.
I don't know if this has been asked before, but is there a certain percentage that we're allowed to provide or?
We are only allowed to provide 15% toward public service agencies.
Okay.
That's why there's a cap on what we provide to public service
I
agencies.
definitely understand that.
And there's also a cap on how much money we can provide to demolitions.
Yeah, that was my
It
next
has to
question.
be, it's a complicated formula kind of, in that it includes a nebulous variable, but it is 30% of the money expended during the year. So say we put forward $100,000, just as a round number, to home repair, and we only spend $5,000. Then what we spend on demolitions has to go down significantly. So demolitions is kind of an interesting fluctuation in that you have to keep kind of an eye on what you're spending all year to know if you can spend that money on demolitions. Although you can average between 3 years. It's almost worse than taxes, I'm just saying. So you have to average that, the three of them, and keep it within that 30%. But those are the only two areas where we have caps. Oh, and admin. Admin is the other area that we spend money on, and that can be no more than 15%. So, I just thought I would bring forward to the board to ask if that's how you would like to spend the money this year, because I'm writing the plan and that's kind of what I'm putting it toward. That's kind of what our 5-year plan said, but I just want to make sure. At this point,
You haven't demonstrated that it's not a need.
at this point, I've had several agencies approach me about the possibility of funds for institutional rehab, we don't have that in our 5-year plan. We could do it, but they're not at a point where they're ready to do that yet.
Meaning mental health?
Meaning that we could help repair their roof, or like.
Okay.
What we did in the past was the back wall of the Youth Achievement Center.
We did the back wall of the Youth Achievement Center, we did windows at St. Vincent's Clinic. And one agency is approached about the possibility of doing a roof, another agency is approached about the possibility of doing installation of equipment, commercial equipment, but like I said, at this point, they're not ready, so.
And it's not built into the 5-year plan is what you're saying?
It's not built into the 5-year plan.
We
We'd
could
have
amend
to do, we'd have to do a special meeting to change the 5-year plan. If anything that isn't within the 5-year plan, we would have to do a special meeting to change it. It's not that we couldn't, it's just that it would just take a little bit more effort on our part.
And then that would have to be reported back to HUD.
Right,
How
right.
many years are we into the present 5-year plan?
We're looking at doing year 4.
Okay,
And so.
we're always in a 5-year plan, I just can't remember how far.
Yeah, well, and this one was quirky because it was supposed to end with this coming up year, but because we had to redo it for the fair housing stuff, it got extended another year. It's kind of interesting. I brought some sheets for you guys.
I just remembered, I didn't give you one of my
I know.
cover sheets.
I just remembered what I did have.
Okay,
That's okay.
I'm looking at it, I'm
Well, your
thinking,
numbers aren't gonna change yours then.
well, yeah, but this, I had tons of things to say about this.
That's a problem.
This is the equivalent of the cat ate my homework, or the
Yeah,
dog ate my homework.
there's not enough space to put your comments in.
Well, I just looked at a lot of things on there, and I had some questions about it.
Yeah, and I think it's fine for us to have discussion. I need to sit there.
I guess I added wrong. I had 66,000, 66660 as the number, but I'm sure your math is way better than mine.
Have we gotten our?
We have not gotten our allocation again this
Okay.
year.
Well, it never comes in until June.
I think I don't know where it is, and I just read an article before I came down here that the president has released his budget and he's looking at slashing all social service agencies 5%, so that'd be the EPA and HUD and
Yeah.
all of those.
Anticipate a 5%.
I'm thinking we're looking at maybe a 5% cut, but for right now, I'm budgeting at the same as last year, which last year was quirky because we got a 10% increase, so I was never look a gift horse in the mouth, that's all I'm saying. What I need from the board is really direction on how we're going to spend the funds in public service agencies. I put 2 scenarios down on this sheet. One is if you deleted the two bottom agencies because they were not necessarily in our area that we had designated as areas of importance, then you can either do a flat rate award, which means that everybody just gets a portion of what's available.
But then we're adding the violence.
You're adding the, well, because they fall within our purview, quite frankly, of housing.
Yeah, I know they do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just,
So,
the 2 we're deleting or could delete, then that would give money push a little bit more.
If you just do a flat rate, 80.8% of the requested budget, that's the first column. The second column looks at giving all the agencies that were here last year the same amount that they got last year. And then the Alliance Against Family Violence would get a significantly smaller amount, but it would be equivalent to the other 2 agencies that were.
Because they didn't receive anything last year.
Right.
Gotcha, track.
Yeah.
Right, that's why we had,
Excuse me.
we had the ability to meet the higher number for most agencies last year was because we had one agency drop out. We added 2 agencies. So now this year, we have equivalent of an extra agency on top of the 2 that we added. But these 2 scenarios are not the only scenarios that are available. We can determine line by line how much money we want to give to each one of them. I just wanted to give you a talking point about that. And I guess the first talking point would be whether or not you're in agreement with eliminating those 2 agencies.
I am. I looked at their information, and I just had questions about both of them, about the number of people that they serve and the amount of money that they spend on, and I understand that youth violence, and that's why I ask about all the paid help, because their salaries are quite, I mean, not high, but, and I know they have to be licensed people in order to provide care for those children, but.
I think it's, for children, it's labor intensive to run a daycare because by licensing, you have to have so many people
You have to have about a dog for every 10
yes,
adults.
for every kid.
Yeah.
And for little guys, it's even more than 1 in 10. It's like 1 in 4. So I understand that. The youth, I'll be honest with the group here, the youth support program has been a challenge for all the years that I have been here. They have not been responsive. They have not turned in their monthly reports. They have not done good reporting about how many people they're serving.
This isn't new management though, isn't it?
No,
Okay.
no. He's been here for all of the years that
Since
I've been
Debbie
here.
left?
Yes.
Okay.
So I just feel like it's, that last year we cut them in half, didn't even ask why. And if an agency, a funding agency had cut my budget in half, I would ask.
Oh, man.
I would call them.
Yeah, so that was my question about, I guess the word is, what is the repercussions of not providing any of this request to them? I mean, are we?
I do believe the agency is in failure. I'll be honest. When I did their site review, they're trying to sell half of their building. I don't think they're in good shape.
It's not the lack of need.
No, it's not the lack of need. I do believe it's management thereof.
Or mismanagement?
So that's the Youth Support Center. The Women's Community Y, I think they run a good program. I just don't know if it's something that we had designated as a program that we were interested in funding. We said, what was it?
Health, shelter, and food.
Health, shelter, and food, yeah.
Did I hear correctly that it was only 30%? Was that the right number I heard from that lady that maybe I'm?
60% of their people are low moderate income, but
Okay,
only
gotcha.
27% are low income.
10% in foster care, 37 families, and 45 kids.
Yeah. So,
And they have, well, I just looked at that and, 11 paid help. And it's like, and I understand that now better with having looked into youth programs and childcare and,
Having to have those ratios?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and it's.
they're federally, they're state mandated to have those ratios. Could I hear some comments about whether or not we should take those 2 off the table and just discuss the others?
Well, I concur with that, to remove them. Simply, there's so much need in the areas, the food, shelter.
We'll be doing the greater good
and
by
health.
doing that.
Okay,
That's my thought process. The greater good will be served by eliminating those two and allocating the balance to the other folks in order to meet their, not that their need isn't great, but the greater good, I think the greater good there is being taken care of.
okay, so then the discussion is next about funding the Alliance Against Family Violence and how much you want to fund them. They ask for $10,000.
You know, I know that that service, just working at the university, we've had some of our students that have been abused and really, in the past, and it's been kind of sorely missed in a way that we haven't been able to refer some of our young people for counseling or to have some safe refuge. And these are mostly students that attend the university and live off campus, that come to us with and I just think that it's a service that's been really missed, and anything we can do to help them, I think would be really beneficial to not only the young people, but having witnessed some of these events and these not having any place to go except to Wyandotte County or to Lawrence or Atchison to get out of the abusive situations. It's.
Did any service pick up the slack after they?
No.
Didn't CASA do the,
CASA's doing the child advocacy
Yeah, the advocacy.
portion of it, because it made more sense really for CASA to have
Well,
that piece so that all the child-oriented stuff is in one area.
Makes sense.
But the
So
abuse-
that reorganization happened before they closed, and that was I think a good move. But there's not another organization in the county that handles domestic violence. And so they had to refer out to other counties and other areas. I have met with the director several times. I feel like they're on a good path of organization, and they've been working with a state organization that has helped them identify financial areas that they needed to improve, processes they needed to improve, and as she addressed, they have done that. So I just would have liked to have seen them open before we fund them. But with the process of the federal government, that may happen anyway. So we can choose to wait to sign that contract until, well, we can't sign it until we get the money anyway. So can I ask someone to talk about whether they want to fund them at a lower or higher level?
I personally think that award at the 80.8%, I think that's as fair as, I mean.
As it could
the
get?
work you put into it, I mean, not to point out the obvious, but your due diligence there is something that I'm okay with, and I assure you, and I assume, I mean, we assume we do a lot of different things, but that the family violence, I'm sure that they would be fine with what we were able to provide based on the projections.
Right. I think at this point, it's what we choose to provide. So how does the rest of the board feel about that?
sounds good.
I'm in concurrence.
I think that's true. I would.
It's
Okay.
always a rough time of year to always slice the pie.
Yeah, this is the hardest part, I think. So what I'm hearing is everybody is in concurrence for 80.8% of their requests for the Welcome Central is always by contract because that is a service that the city has decided they want for landlord-tenant issues. So, so they don't come to do a presentation because we're going to just straight out award a contract. I can reduce that contract, and I think it would be okay. And the other agencies, I think, will probably be happy to accept what funding is available. And all of this is contingent, quite frankly, on what we get awarded from the federal government. So if our award is less, then I'll have to redo these numbers and make them less, because it has to stay within that 15% is the magic number. So what I'm going to do is work with these numbers, and then when we get finally our allocation, then I'll see if we need to rework them. Does anybody have any discussion about any of the other allocations? We can go step by step if you want to. I mean, we can change them or alter them, or we can just leave them at 80.8% for everyone.
I would, the 80% is fine until we know what we're getting our funding level.
If by chance we get a boatload of money,
Wouldn't that be a swell thing?
that would be a
Fully fund
swell thing.
everybody's request.
If we have a boatload of money, I will reopen this and we can discuss it some more.
Oh, good,
How's
okay.
that?
We'll gladly meet.
Okay, so for the next board meeting, it will be next month. I put the wrong date on your sheet, so April the 8th will be our next meeting at 4 o'clock.
Put it in my calendar right now.
Yeah, do it. And we will discuss the full annual plan. I'll have it all written out, and I'll send it to you via email. Does anybody want hard copies?
I'll take a hard copy.
Okay, I see one. Anybody else?
Email's fine.
Okay, all right.
April 9th?
8th.
8th.
Monday.
I was checking.
What is it,
I
April
put the
8th?
9th, but that's because I left last year's date on there. So April 8th. All right, that's all I have for this evening. Anybody else have anything else that you'd like to discuss on this portion?
We have no more business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
And a second? And a second. All in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Aye. Pose same sign. We stand adjourned till the 8th.
Thank you very much for your time. I've been talking into the
About a
microphone.
A- in work here.